we were on 8.4, we were all the way to the last problem, example 5. And example 5 was a little bit difficult. It said, find the rational zeros and then the other zeros of the polynomial function. And it gave us this polynomial. We do have an x to the 5th, an x to the 4th, an x to the 3rd, x squared, x to the 1st, so on and so forth. So if this is me and I'm trying to work this problem, I know I'm going to have to kind of divide out to get this problem started. So what I probably would do is go to my graphing calculator and go to the app and see, can I find any real zeros if I do that? So I'm going to go to that polyroot finder in the calculator. I'm going to go to y equals, and nope, that's wrong. I'm going to go to my apps, and I'm going to go to Poly Simulator 2, hit enter, and I'm going to type in my function, and it is something to the 5th degree. So I'm going to go to type in 5, hit next, and I'm going to go in and type in, it was 2x to the 5th. It was negative 1x to the 4th. It was negative 4x to the 3rd and 2x squared, negative 30x, sorry, negative 30, and then 15, plus 15. So I'm just eyeballing to make sure I type that all incorrectly. This is example 5 on 8.4 that we were on. So I'm typing this into my app, that Poly Simulator 2, so that I can figure out at least one root. So when I look at these roots, I'm going, oh, this is probably, so negative 2.23 and positive 2.23. That's probably some square root that didn't come out even. Okay, these both have root 3 and 4 both have i's in them, so that doesn't really help me. But what does help me is root 5 is 1/2. Okay, so that will at least get me a starting point that I know that one of my roots is 1/2. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to come down here and say, okay, well, if I know that one of my roots is 1/2 and I need to find the other 2 roots, I can at least get started there and put down my, do synthetic division. Okay, I can use synthetic division to get me at least a little bit further. So I'm going to say 2 times 1/2 is 1. When I add these together, I get 0 times 1/2 is 0. Adding, negative 4 times 1/2 is negative 2. And add that, 0 times 1/2 is 0. And negative 30 times 1/2 is negative 15. And if 1/2 is a root, then I should get 0 as a remainder there. Okay, so it is. I started out with x to the 5th, so this would be 1 less than that. It would be 2x to the 4th. Plus 0x to the 3rd minus 4x squared plus 0x minus 30 equals 0, which if we take all of those that are just 0 coefficients out, we're just left with this. Is everybody okay with that? From there, I can go, okay, well, I've got, I know, so the whole goal here is find the rational zeros and then the other zeros. So I have 5 zeros. We've got an x to the 5th. So my first 0, so I already know that one of my zeros is 1/2. I found that by doing the polyroot finder. When I get here, I'm going to go, man, this is a whole lot like a quadratic, except for it's an x to the 4th and an x squared instead of an x squared and an x. So I can use my quad program to kind of help me out, or I could go, okay, I know that 2 can be factored out of everything here. You're not going to have one that's this difficult, I don't think. But if I take a 2 out of each one of these, actually I know because we're fixing to go over the homework in a minute. If I take a 2 out of each one of these, then this is what I would have left. If I think about this and say, well, what multiplies to give me negative 15 but adds to give me negative 2? So let me say that again. What multiplies to be negative 15 and adds to be negative 2? Going to be negative 5 and positive 2. Positive 3. So negative 5 times 3 is negative 15, and negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. So once I know this, I'm going to look at these two terms. One of them is, when is x squared plus or minus 5 equal to 0? That's not hard to solve. The other one is x squared plus 3. When is it equal to 0? So these things, when we solve them, we could add 5. We would get x squared is equal to 5. To get rid of the squared, we would take a square root. And remember, when you take the square root, it could be plus or minus, whatever that is. So two more of my roots. One of my roots is positive square root of 5. The other is negative square root of 5. Well, on that poly root finder that we just did, that would have been those numbers that were 2.23 something and negative 2.23. Okay, when I solve this, I can subtract 3, and I would get x squared is equal to negative 3. Get rid of a squared, you're going to take the square root. And remember that a square root has two answers, but this is the square root of a negative number. So it's really negative 1 times 3. And what's the square root of negative 1? Yeah, so this is plus or minus I times the square root of 3. So this one was the one that, so my other two roots are I square root of 3 and negative I square root of 3. There's my 5 roots. Okay, so that is the end of 8.4. When I broke it, that's a good question. So when I broke it up into the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 3, that took that negative out and made it an I. Yeah. So this is the end of 8.4, this section.